Hello, Virtue here. This is the Villisca House, or otherwise known as the Axeman House. It's in Iowa, in the United States. I've done a series of paintings on this house, which is reputed to be extremely haunted. The reason I did these paintings was not because I really was particularly focused on this haunting, but it was because of actually a TV program that I watched called Aftershocks that are done by the Ghost Adventures team. And in this particular episode, they were actually talking to the two ladies, Patty and Linda, I think their names are, who own the house. Or I don't know if they still do, but at the time they did. Not sure when it was filmed. It could have. I don't know when. I don't know. The reason I took it on was because I was really concerned about both these women because they looked very tired and very strained. In particular, one of them, and I'm sorry, I don't know which one it was. The host, Zach, at one stage mentions looking at some sort of footage, and this poor woman, my heart just went out to her, it really did. She looked, sighed at him, and then just sort of gave this really downhearted, sort of downtrodden look. And I just thought, oh dear, this is not good. Obviously, what's happening, I know they don't. I think they don't live in the house, but there is still some connection. I know this because after I've done sort of a fairly nasty haunting, I look like absolute hell for about 2 or 3 days, and it takes me 2 or 3 days to recover the energy because I have to put out so much to like be able to do all the bindings and the rituals and the things I need to do. Even when I paint it afterwards to make sure that I've cleared it, it still takes it out of me. I call it my death warmed up look, and I was really concerned because I could see that strain, that similar strain on their faces. So that's why I decided to go ahead and do a series of paintings. Now, I have to say as well, usually when I talk about hauntings, they're usually fairly calm, and I generally approach them in a way that's not, you know, it's not Hollywood. It's approached in a truthful manner the way it happened to me. But I have to admit, this one's a little bit scary because it did really have a massive twist at the end of it. So I will show you the next image. Okay, this is the first image that I did in the series, and before I get into this image, I'm just going to explain, you might be wondering, because I'm actually in London, how I can be in London and do a painting of haunting in the US. There is no time in the dead world, but there's also no geography. So you don't sort of have those barriers. It's also that I'm very good at astral work. I've been able to do it since I was a kid. I remember I was 15, the first time I actually could see myself outside my body. It was a complete accident. I absolutely shat myself. It was really funny. But that's how I do it. I often will do hauntings by not even being on site. But anyway, that's the explanation of how I did this. And I don't really 100% know if it has actually cleared the haunting. I hope it's settled things down a bit though. The circles that you see in the paintings are bindings. Now I can do that ritually, which is I use natural forms, rocks and some string and little tiny branches and things like that. And I do a bit of a ritual and hang it. Hang the sort of result of it wherever I need to, or I can paint it, and that is a painting of a binding. That particular binding is one that I use for things that are nasty, and it's a sort of I've got you, you're not going anywhere. As I said, I haven't cleared any of the hauntings actually that I've got in bindings. I will do them eventually, but at the moment I'm just sort of concentrating on other things. So the main image there is the murderer. The murderer is the biggest image, sort of in the middle-ish of the painting. And there's a smaller image next to this murderer, which is a demonic attachment. It's pretty usual. I have to do a lot of hauntings of murder victims, and a lot of the time the murder victim and the actual murderer are still sort of connected. It's a funny thing. Sometimes they're not, but you know, other times they are. It's a funny thing. But the second thing that I found out about this painting, because when I paint these sort of things, it is a very channeled painting. I don't get a lot of say on what goes on. I just sort of let it go. There's a second murderer here, and that's the smaller image that is down sort of towards the left-hand corner when you're looking straight at the painting. He's got sort of a big red circle, this little green thing. He is about 20. I know he's got a mental age of about probably 13 or 14. He's not living anymore. Neither of them are living, actually. He has a distant connection with the murderer. You know, it's a really weird thing. I pick up, when I talk about it, I pick up even more. I almost feel like he was somehow, he was supposed to be cared for by this guy in some form. He was with him under his sort of care. I'm not really 100% sure. He's a bit difficult to talk to because he's a bit slow, shall we say. But he is riddled with guilt about what happened. And I don't really know his part in it because he's not really talking too much. I think he just feels so guilty about it. The other stuff that's in there, it's a lot of demonic sort of blow in, and you often get that. A lot of hauntings that are bad like this, that have lots and lots of layers to them. It's almost, I always liken it like a whirlwind. You almost get sort of, it swirls, all that negative energy and all that crap just swirls, and it attracts really shit things into it. So the rest of it is sort of not really to do with that actual murderer. It's more the crap that's gathered. Anyway, we'll go on to the next image. I also meant, in the previous image, I meant to mention too, the two images that are below that main binding are there were two girls visiting the family and stayed overnight, and they were also killed. And that's a picture of them. There was a family of 6 that were also killed. And I mean, we've got to remember too when we're discussing this, because sometimes I feel a bit ghoulish dealing with the dead. These are actual people who died, you know, and it's pretty horrible. It must have been absolutely horrific death. It really must have been. The strange thing about this is in the bottom binding. These bindings that I've got around these entities are different from the first one. They're healing bindings, and I'll often put them in there. I actually work with an angel deity, Michael, who helps me out with the hauntings, because I just can't keep up with them. You just got to keep. I mean, I couldn't do it without him, because he is going to oversee these. When you see any of my paintings at the bindings and they've got a white border around them, it means that I've asked him to oversee it. The strange thing about this, the bottom binding is the family, but there's an extra 4 people in it, and I don't understand why, or I didn't understand why at this stage. But the main focus I want to talk about, as I said, I did this clip because I was concerned about the women that own this house, because I was just concerned about their welfare. This I want to handle delicately. It's a very strange thing. They bought Villisca House and lived in Villisca House because the house they had previously unfortunately burnt down. And even more sad was the fact that 5 of their siblings were killed in it. And this is the problem, and this is the reason that they're so strained. And it's not their siblings' fault, and it's not their fault. It's not anyone is at fault here. But often when children die very young and in circumstances that they don't understand, they cling to the living because they don't understand that they need to move on to the dead world. This is actually really common. Unfortunately, this is what's happening. Now, these children in spirit are not trying to do anything to hurt their siblings. They just don't know what to do. So without going on too much about it, because I don't want to, it's private, and I just don't want to be disrespectful. What I would suggest they do is whatever they're comfortable with, either themselves or, you know, if they've got a religion that gives them comfort, but they do some sort of passing over ceremony, and see if they can't move their siblings on, because they're going to be a lot happier where they are supposed to be as opposed to being stuck. But in my opinion, from what I read with this painting, that is their main problem. Now hopefully things have lightened up a little bit, because I've had them in a healing binding, and I'm going to attempt to see if I can send this to actually Villisca House, this clip, so hopefully I can get the message through and things can settle down a little. So with that said, I want to move on again. Now you're looking at a screenshot. This is where this story starts getting really strange, and this is what I always talk to people about with the dead. The dead do shock me more than anything I've really dealt with, because you think you understand what's going on. You think you've got a handle on it. You think you understand the essence of this haunting. And all of a sudden, it completely turns on its ass. And you're sitting there with a completely shocked look on your face, thinking, I just don't believe it's gone here. This is the case with Villisca House. You're sitting here watching something that is on YouTube. Link will be in the description to this documentary. I'm sitting here finishing up bits of artwork, not this actual pieces, but others. I'm finishing up bits of artwork, and I'm sitting there watching, you know, YouTube's rolling in the background, excuse me, and this comes on. Now, as soon as I saw this documentary come up and start playing, I just knew it. I knew it. My gut was just going red flag, red flag, red flag. It's actually a really interesting documentary, but I knew it. I knew it. There is a theory that these axe murders that were all around the same era, I think they went over about 20-year period, were all done by the same person. And in fact, there was, I think it was the 20s, they happened, and it was all over states of America that these families were being murdered, and they had the same MOs. It was just, but nobody seemed to be able to connect it. So I'm watching this documentary thinking, wow, I knew it was coming. And what they had is they had a map. Now at this stage, because I'm starting to get very instinctual about this, because I knew it. I knew that something was going to come up about the Villisca House. I knew it. I'm starting to converse with my, with the ones I call the mercenaries, the ones that help me with these hauntings. And I'm saying, what are we dealing with? And I get this, around 100 deaths. what? Are you kidding? I was just, and they're telling me things, and I'm watching this documentary, and what they've got on it, if you do watch it, it's a map. So they've got a map of the US and all the states, and they actually have like this sort of animation where it shows where all of these axe murders were, and it winds its way round. And I'm sitting there, and I mean, my American geography is not great, believe me, but I'm thinking, not Iowa, don't go to Iowa. And then it went to Iowa. I went, no. And it came up with Villisca House. And I thought, oh, you've got to be kidding. I can't believe this. So now, I don't know. I'm going from what my spiritual team tell me is that, yes, this was the one person, and this is the amount of people. Now, they said in this documentary it was about 60 people that they think officially, this one person killed. And I'm thinking, well, you're a bit short there because, they're saying 60. And then in the next breath, the documentary says, oh, but there's all of these other ones that they also believe is connected. And here they just start listing these families and these names of people. And it was incredible, absolutely incredible. I was quite shocked again. So this is the next image I painted. And these are the victims. And this is what happens when you work with the dead, is that they come out with truths that I find so incredible, I can hardly believe it myself. Again, the binding I have on this is a healing binding. I mean, really, it's about all you can really do at this point, isn't there? But it goes on, because in this documentary, and this is where it gets really eerie, and even for my standard, I don't scare easily. This really sent shivers down my spine. So I'm going to show you an image of how weird it actually got. This is where it gets really strange. It even gets strange for me, and I'm used to strange. To think I used to have a relatively normal life before I moved to London, and now look, it's just gone insane. And I know this is not a London haunting, but London has changed me so much. I have never had these abilities to the extent I've got them at the moment. It just opens me up to a whole new world, and that's okay. You just have to learn to deal with it. This is a letter that was sent to, I think, New Orleans. I think it was the Times and the police. I've put a link to it. It's just a Wikipedia page if you want to read it yourself. But this is what really sent shivers down my spine, because this is what came up in the documentary. And of course, the first thing I did was go and find this letter and read it. This is apparently from this Axeman. I expect it is, because I think it's, synchronistically, it's just mind-blowing with what I've just painted. And the first line of it, which is apparently written by the demon, it's not written by the actual murderer. Well, it would be, but I'd say that it's probably a channeled piece of work that, as I said before, a lot of the murders, a lot of these things do have demonic attachments. It's not unheard of that this could have been actually, that demonic attachment being channeled through the actual murderer, or, the murderer just maybe nuts, who would know. Anyway, the thing that made me shiver was the first line that says, "They have never caught me and they never will." And I just looked at the painting and thought, well, I did, because you are caught. And then it said, "For I am invisible. They have never seen me, for I am invisible." And I thought, well, I can see you now. And that's where it gets really eerie. So I've put a link, as I said, to this letter, and I was really glad this is over, because it really did freak me out a bit, especially those first 2 lines. I don't know, I can't tell you how I felt. I felt really weird, because it's just, you never know where they're going to take you, and you never know what is going to end up sitting in your lap. And I mean, this for me, as I said, I'm very used to strange, and I'm very used to things that most people don't even know exist. I often say my paintings take people past their own imaginations, but sometimes when I do things like this, it takes me past my own, and it really does push me, because I still find that really, really creepy, those first 2 lines, and it does scare me, because I think that is just horrific. And to think that I went into this for the right reasons, because I wanted to help these 2 ladies, and I really do hope that I have helped them. I really do. But it ended up being so hideously evil. I mean, if you look at that sort of, if we go along with this and we say, all right, well, this is what has happened. All these people were killed by some, sick fuck and his pet bloody demon. It's, it's a world that you don't really want to be having to address. Without getting too heavy, because I know I am getting a bit heavy here. Anyway, got any comments about this? Please leave them. I'm glad it's over. I hope sincerely that both Linda and Patty have got some relief. And of course, I'm absolutely happy if they ever get this message. If they need a hand to sort out anything, just let me know. And I think we might leave this one now. And I don't know if you enjoyed it. I don't know if I enjoyed it. I don't know. But anyway, look, my aim with all of this work that I do on YouTube is to get the truth out there and to be truthful about what I'm doing, regardless how weird and strange and evil it gets. I'm going to go and find a nice clip to do now, just to make up for this. And I hope this doesn't put you off. I hope you watch some more. Anyway, I'll say bye for now.